Hey everyone, Sean and Dave here from Saturday Morning Cartoons. We need to thank the following amazing people for going to our Patreon account and supporting this show. So a huge thank you to John Helter,
Jack Connolly,
Derek Haynes,
Alex Kazanis,
Jarmaine Myrick,
Carson Clark,
Allison Keene,
Dr. Jason Woods,
the wonderful Melanie Harker,
the incomparable Sean Paul Ellis.
oh, and the phenomenal David Trumbore.
Thank you so much. Now, you guys might wonder why we are thanking ourselves and some familiar names of the podcast. It's because we want you to know that we not only appreciate your donations to the podcast here, but we are actually putting in our hard-earned dollars as well. So to give you guys an idea of what you can actually get for some of these monthly contributions through Patreon, if you can't contribute any money whatsoever, we would love it if you guys would just visit patreon.com/SaturdayMorningCartoons. Remember, that's morning with a U. And just share that link out among your social media pages. That would help us out a lot and just get the word out there. If you do want to kick in a couple of bucks, you get some cool stuff back in return. So you may not know that we send out a monthly newsletter that not only tells people about upcoming news that we have going on, we've definitely got some cool stuff coming in the next couple of months here for you. But we'll also announce the upcoming list of shows that we're going to be covering. So if there's a cartoon out there that you actually like, you're going to get to hear about it in the monthly newsletter. Other than that, you also get special thank yous in the newsletter. You get a special shout out like this one right here in each and every episode. You can get early access to weekly episodes, and you can also get access to our special behind the scenes rambling between Sean and myself.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there's some gems in there. So you're going to want to check that out. Again, head on over to patreon.com/SaturdayMorningCartoons to do so. And thank you so much to everyone who is a current patron.
Thank you to our patrons. Thank you so much for listening. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from Jupiter 42, I'll be your chode host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, the newest Apple sex bot. It's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, bud?
David, I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
I am excited to have the new model on our show tonight.
You're creeping me out already. We are probably 30 seconds into this show, and I'm already goosebumps.
Ooh, the goosebumps.
Just cringing.
And you can find Goosebumps on the newest model of Apple Sex Bot,
Oh,
Sean Paul Ellis style.
It's just the bot reads Goosebumps, R.L. Stein Goosebumps to you.
Yeah, that's the weird thing was when Sean arrived in his crate, I opened it up and just all these Goosebumps books filled out. But we spent, a couple evenings together reading it. It's been a real delight. I've really gotten to know him a lot better, and I think our pair bonding is much stronger because of it.
Oh boy, why are we still trying to propagate this rumor that I am a sex bot?
I mean, you say rumor, I say I have a receipt. Whatever, it's fine.
This is creepy, but I'm enjoying it.
And that is the theme of tonight's show, because we're getting into yet another a creepy Canadian cartoon. I don't even know how to describe this one, because it's definitely got a creep factor to it. It's funnier than some of the stuff we've watched, but it also really pushes a lot of the wrong buttons too.
Oh yeah.
So let's get into this one tonight. What are we talking about, and what is the history of this show?
Guys, we are talking about Tripping the Rift. If you are not familiar with Tripping the Rift, is a Canadian adult CGI science fiction comedy television series that's based on two short animations published on the internet by Chris Moeller and Chuck Austin. The series was produced by Cine Group in association with the Sci-Fi Channel. It aired on Canadian specialty channel Space in 2004. Canada's Cartoon Network, Teletoon, has been airing the series since August 2006. The third season aired on Teletoon in 2007, and a feature-length movie version was released on DVD in 2008.
This one kind of fits. It makes sense that it pops up in like the mid-2000s, because it definitely had to come after some series that came ahead of it. So like South Park, Simpsons,
Sure.
Definitely Family Guy and things like that. It's weird that I don't remember this one, because there was kind of a joint Canadian and then I think American distribution for a while. I think there's something that like Sci-Fi Channel, they weren't outfitted at the time for like any comedy programming, especially a mature rated comedy programming. So they didn't really have the space for it, and I don't think they ordered any additional episodes. But Canada was like, hey, we're totally fine with it up here. Everything's cool. So they ordered a few more episodes, and that's why they got more up there, and we are counting it as a Canadian cartoon.
I mean, it would also stand for a reason that Chris Mueller had worked on King of the Hill
Right.
For a while. And so this is like when he paired up with Chuck Austin, they were just like, yeah, let's make a pervy, funny science fiction show. And this is the baby that we got that we'd like to get rid of.
Oh, boy.
Well, no, I don't mean like, I mean, we just don't want
to just skip over that
man,
one.
I'm not winning on this episode. Have we been, hold on. If I'm not winning, have we been competing?
We got to get your software patch updated. Have I been eating?
Jesus. No, has this been a competition? 171 episodes. Has this just been a straight competition of who's actually winning this show?
I mean, I've been keeping score since day one. I don't know about you, but that seems like a point in my favor.
I mean, it is, because if that's the case, I'm clearly losing right now. Fuck.
I think everyone loses this month with Canadian cartoons.
Damn it, Canada.
Let's talk about Tripping the Rift and what the show is actually about, because guess what? Spoiler alert, we're not going to get into any of this plot in the episodes that we watch tonight.
Not a single bit of it.
All right, so the universe of the show is modeled largely after the Star Trek universe and includes elements borrowed from other sci-fi shows such as Star Wars, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Battlestar Galactica, Lost in Space, and even some of the Douglas Adams stories. In this show, known space is politically divided between two superpowers: the Confederation, led by humans and a parody of the Federation from Star Trek, and the Dark Clown Empire, a parody of the Galactic Empire from Star Wars.
I'm glad to know that the Juggalos are alive and well in space.
It's good to know. They're on our side this time.
Oh.
So, praise be Juggalos.
Cool.
Just sip on your Faygo. So, the Dark Clown Empire is led by the evil Darth Bobo. That's Darth with a PH, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Ultimately, both superpowers end up exploiting and restricting their inhabitants, albeit in different ways. The only place that anyone can truly be free is in the border region between the two superpowers, known as the Rift, which is directly controlled by neither. Existing within this region and avoiding detection is known as, say it with me now, Tripping the Rift. Yeah. The series follows a group of outlaws led by Chode aboard the spaceship Jupiter 42, taking odd jobs and usually pursuing various get-rich-quick schemes while tripping the Rift. So, all that political intrigue sounds kind of fun. It's an interesting setup. And existing in this like border region sounds like an interesting... It's sort of like Firefly or Serenity, right?
Sure.
These guys exist on kind of like the outer rim planets or whatever the
right.
lingo was for that. And they're outlaws. They do the Han Solo type smuggling deals, and they run stuff back and forth and try to avoid detection from any of their enemies or law enforcement. We don't get any of that in the two episodes that we watched tonight. We watched, as we usually do, we watched the first episode titled God is Our Pilot. And we watched the highest rated episode on IMDb, which was, what was it, season 2, episode 2, titled You Want to Put That Where? So you have an idea of what the show's supposed to be about, but what we saw were just kind of like capers. And we'll get to that in a second. Before we get to the theme song tonight, did this ever come across your radar at all in the mid-2000s?
I feel like maybe it did. I feel like this was like weird. If we were to go online and search Rule 34 for just probably anything, I feel like this kind of weird CGI perversion would probably inevitably pop up in our browser.
Yep.
So I feel like that's the only reason that I know that this exists, is just because of probably searching for weird crap on the internet.
It just always pops up.
It just always seems to pop up.
It really does seem like you can call it Tripping the Rift, or you can just call it like weird images I found on the internet. And it kind of, either one works.
You could really just call it, please clear my browser history when I'm done with this.
Yeah, definitely set that to auto clear when I close the window. But we'll talk about that when we get to like animation style and characters, because each of them has a specific offensive aspect to their nature, I guess.
Yeah, no,
some more than
accurate.
others, but yeah. All right. For me, it was kind of the same. It's like I recognize these characters, but probably like shied away from it, at least publicly. I don't think I ever watched it. I really don't think I did.
Yeah,
it looks. I'll save that for animation style.
All right.
Let's hop into the theme song. How did you react to first hearing this theme song?
It kind of wanted to come in sort of that like kind of spacey kind of trumpeting way of just like, you're going on a space sci-fi expedition, and that comes across in the music. But then you are very quickly reminded of just how perverted this show actually is. because then there is and I wrote this like in sequence of like slow pan to boobs,
Yep.
Star Trek reference, Star Wars reference, 2001: A Space Odyssey obelisk, followed by a Total Recall mention with a creature with 3 boobs, and then I guess at some point every episode sort of in the similar fashion to, let's say,
like a Simpsons couch gag.
Yeah, exactly. Simpsons couch gag or Futurama spaceship gag. That there's some type of comment or thing that is said by the spaceship, and for this one, for the pilot episode, we got "We're past the point of no return."
Now, was that the spaceship, or was that the guys? Was that like Darth Bobo on the? No, I guess you're right. It was the spaceship. It just happens around the same time that they show all the evil clowns,
right,
on the view screen. Yeah.
So I think is it Bob?
Yeah, Bob's
spaceship
the name of the
Bob.
spaceship. Yeah.
Who makes these comments, and then just as quickly as this happens, because it's only about 29 seconds.
Yeah, it's short
in length. It's very, very short, and then it's done, and then you are completely finished.
Nice, I think. As far, I'm just gonna leave that one there.
No, I'm not winning
as far as the music, though, yeah, it's that kind of like space expedition adventure fanfare, but it doesn't stick with you. Like, I can't separate it in my head from any other kind of. It blends in with like Reboot and Star Trek, not even Star Trek, like Star Trek knockoffs.
Sure.
So it like blends in with like whatever the Galaxy Quest theme was, or whatever I don't even know. Pick another Lost in Space. You know, it's like I can't separate any of those out in my head, but I specifically can't even like recall anything from this one.
Yeah. If you put a gun to my head and said, hum this theme song, or you're over.
We're dead.
Yeah, I'd be dead. This would not be good. It's
especially if it was a space gun.
Space, yeah, right. We definitely had a bunch of headshots that were in some of these episodes tonight.
Yeah, they come out of nowhere too.
Yeah,
and, they caught me off guard, and I was like, "All right, I'm here for it." Wasn't expecting it, but it was okay. It's a thing you did.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as the song, forgettable. Can't remember it at all. But I like the fact that they like sneak those references in, and they're pretty obvious. I mean, there's like there's a toy going around that's the shape of the Enterprise. It looks like the USS Enterprise. There's what looks like C-3PO and R2-D2 standing in like a closet or an elevator, and it just turns out it's this gold robot that doesn't really look anything like C-3PO, and he's vacuuming. So right. R2-D2 is the vacuum. Cute, kind of funny things like that. The first time you see it, it's like, oh, that's great. The more you see it over time, it's just kind of like, okay, fine, we got it. Like all you're looking for at that point is the little opening gag that Bob says each time, but it was fine. It definitely got the tone across. It got the style of animation that you're going to see across. It showed the characters if it did not introduce them. So that was fine. We didn't get a roll call, but it's like, okay, we got a lot of boobs and then weird looking aliens.
Oh, you mean you didn't get a sense of really the type of a captain and character that Chode McBlob was?
Chode McBlob. You want to get into the characters now?
As he's scamming up and down a sex slave android who is named Six because it is one vowel away from the word sex.
Nailed it. It's also 6 of 1 or 6 of 9.
Yes.
A knockoff of 7 of 9 from what was it? Was that
that was Star
Deep
Trek.
Space Nine? Yeah, was that Deep Space Nine?
I thought it was Voyager.
Maybe it was Voyager. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Voyager.
Jerry Ryan. Got it.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, all right. I'm fine with these parodies. I'm okay with a lot of the stuff that they get away with, even just from like the character design. It's very, very strange to look at. So Chode McBlob, if you know what the word chode means, that he basically just kind of looks like that. He looks like a chode had a baby with a blob.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, Dave. What does chode mean?
It's a tiny little penis.
Okay.
So tiny. He basically looks like a little like mushroom toadstool with some tentacles coming out, and he's purple and kind of, I think he's got like green splotches on him.
Yeah, green and like maybe a red splotch like on his butt.
Yeah, when it's inflamed. Definitely captain material.
Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What's interesting is that he's like romantically, I don't know if I want to use the word romantically on this show, sexually involved with Six, who's a cyborg designed as a sex slave. So obviously, I guess they're going to have a sexual relationship. What's interesting is I guess later on, and we didn't get to see this, she has sort of like an implant or a rewrite in her program that gives her quote unquote decency. So it adds some kind of like conflict and tension to that relationship rather than just have her be like a sex crazed robot the entire time.
All right.
But we didn't get to see that, so we won't be talking about that tonight.
Yeah, it's weird to think that Gina Gershon voiced this character, then Carmen Electra, and then Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah, it kind of fits.
Yeah. I mean,
definitely.
you know, if you're looking for, I'm not saying, I don't know that it would fit, but I mean, like if you were looking for
No, it
somebody
100% fits.
who kind of has like sultry like voice like that, like maybe, you know, that makes sense.
Yeah, a sultry voice, and then actresses who were known kind of for their sex appeal.
Yeah.
At the time or throughout their careers. It makes sense when you cast them for this character.
100%.
Now, you could have gone with a complete unknown and somebody that just had like a sex phone operator voice. And they decided to go with the knowns, I guess, for sex.
Right. I feel like for this show, even before, like as we begin to talk about the rest of the characters and beyond, like I feel like I almost have to be sensitive about some of the topics and the things that they bring up, because in a similar fashion, you know, that we were saying, like somebody with this like particular sex appeal, like this show really goes balls to the wall in terms of trying to be overtly sexual and graphic in nature, and it for me almost to like a disturbing, unnecessary point. But I guess ultimately, as we begin this discussion and this character descriptions, understand that the same principles that we had last week for Crash Canyon still apply. If you're going to write jokes like this, you need to be funny.
Right.
Like you need to actually have humor in here. And for me, I'll say this up front, there's a lot of it that misses. This was a swing and a miss 9 times out of 10 for me.
A lot of it misses. I don't think it whiffs quite as bad as Crash Canyon. I did laugh quite a few times in this show, but there were definitely a lot of times where I was just kind of like, all right, like if I was 10 years younger, 15 years younger, 20 years younger, then maybe I would have been like laughing a little bit more at stuff, because it was like, ooh, it's risque and it's taboo and I've never heard it before. But even now, it's kind of like, I've heard this stuff. I laughed in the past, and I'm not really laughing now. But there's some stuff, like the way that they handle it, and the pacing of this show keeps it going fairly well. Crash Canyon would like literally just sit and stew in a stinker of a joke and just wait until you died or laughed.
That show almost dared you to change the channel. Crash Canyon was like, we bet you will not flip off Teletoon. You'll stick on Teletoon for the rest of this show.
I bet you're too lazy to reach for that remote.
No, guess what?
Scumbag.
I'm not. I will change. I will throw the TV
buy
out
a new
window.
TV. Yeah, exactly. But this show, at least, like the pacing, they've learned, or they knew that the pacing of it is enough so that it doesn't really sit in a joke too long. And if it does, it's usually to either let something sink in, or it's just a misstep, because the more offensive a joke, they usually kind of scoot out of it fairly quickly to go on to the next thing. So it doesn't really leave you to sit there too long and think about it. That's definitely not the case for all of them. Some of the worst offenses probably linger far too long and are very uncomfortable, and that's probably by design.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that in a bit. Who else on this crew pops out at you?
We got
literally or otherwise.
Yeah, speaking of popping out, we got our lizard friend. We got Whip.
Got that Whip.
Who
I could have sworn was voiced by Billy West until I looked up the it sounded like what's his name?
I'm not sure. It was Rick Jones who did the voice for this.
Yeah, it sounded like Fry. Fry.
Okay, yeah.
We didn't get to see too much from him in these episodes, because he just kind of hangs out at the ship.
You get to see
he doesn't go anywhere.
Well, I mean, we could talk about this, but we have a lot of one-word descriptions that we start with the show, and he gets pegged with the word slacker, which really seems to fit exactly the type of person that he is. So
he's always feet kicked up and just kind of laying back in the chair.
And I think he's maybe their comms or their navigator. I think he's their navigator.
Yeah, because early on in the first episode, he's kind of like, hey, you ever notice how we like just keep passing the same stars over and over again? He's like, no, you've got the screensaver on. So they just like zoop, just like scoot that out of the screen. He's like, oh, it's much better. So he's also kind of dim.
Yeah.
But that was a kind of funny gag to just show that he's the navigator, but he's not very good. Most of these people are not very good at the jobs that they have. That's a theme that kind of runs throughout.
So who else is poor at their jobs? Since we're doing our annual job assessment that we have for Trip in the Rift.
I'm gonna say I don't know what Tanuk's job actually is. Her name is Tanuk Layor, which if you read it backwards is something you'll probably get detention for if you were in school. So Tanuk's she's I don't know, man, what kind of creature she is.
Well, she's
usually in a foul mood. Yeah.
She 4 legs, so she's a quadruped.
Yeah, it's kind of, she's got like a centaur thing going on.
Yeah.
But like a 3-breasted centaur with kind of like, I don't know. She's just as alien as you can possibly be. Let me put it that way.
Well, it turns out she is the cook and she's the pilot of the ship.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't know.
What's weird is like the ship itself has an AI that can pilot, that can, can dock, it can talk back to you, it can, mouth off at you and call you a slacker or a slut or whatever it wants to call you. And that AI is named Bob, and it controls the ship. It's kind of a reference to both Lost in Space and also to Hal from 2001.
Right.
The funny thing is he has agoraphobia. So it's literally a spaceship that's got a fear of space, and he has panic attacks all the time. So
I really enjoyed that aspect.
I enjoy that too. It reminded me of Douglas Adams. What was the name of the robot from
from Hitchhiker's Guide?
Yeah, from Hitchhikers. If you know the depressed robot that I'm talking about, Bob kind of reminds me of that, just in the way that it's like it's a robot with like personality issues that makes it very difficult to work with. And I like that aspect of it. I thought that was kind of funny. They had some fun with it, probably more so in the other episodes we watched, but a couple gags here and there. What about Gus? What are you feeling about old Gus?
Gus is pretty interesting. He has, again, from the intro, you're kind of given this idea that maybe he's a C-3PO style character, and he kind of is. He sort of seems to be serving up information. He helps Chode. I mean, the number of times that we're going to say Chode on this episode is going to be a lot. Is amazing. He helps Chode with some of his capers. He's around and he's present. I don't know that he really super contributes a lot to everything that's going on, but he's there as like a comedy foil to Chode.
Right. He's there initially as like the straight man, which is kind of ironic because eventually at some point they label him with homosexuality. So they essentially start making jokes about how he's a homosexual, and then they really just kind of lay into it in one of the episodes that we watched. So I don't know the progression over time, if it took that whole season for him to like start to be slowly labeled as such, because in that first episode, you don't get that at all. He's actually just kind of like not asexual, but more repressed than anything else. There's another lady robot who he's kind of interested in, but has not really pursued any romantic interests in.
I don't know though, man. There is kind of like a butt play joke that they have in that first episode.
The first one? We'll have to get back to it. I don't remember it.
So it's interesting. But I mean, to your point about Hitchhiker's Guide, he is sort of the Marvin. He's kind of a paranoid android.
Oh, see, I was thinking, I guess between Gus and Bob, they're both they've got that sort of sensibility to him.
Bob is the paranoid android. Got it.
Babe. That's pretty much it for those guys, and we should probably talk about the animation style so you have an idea of what's kind of going on here and what they look like and what we're working with. Basically, if you've ever seen like a mod for Skyrim, The Sims, anything where there's like a human figure, and then you can kind of alienize it, or you can add, tails, or change color of the skin, or change the size of the musculature, or whatever. It looks like that. It looks like somebody just took a mod for a game and then just ran crazy with it, and then just like morphed them into all kinds of different shapes and sizes to populate these like alien worlds.
So sort of like the game that they had that came out from Will Wright, who was the inventor of Sims. He had that game called Spore, which is that you kind of create a lot of these weird random alien creatures.
Yeah.
That's 100% what this game made me think of, is the video game Spore. I can't think of anything else that would have been in the mid-2000s that would have been a contemporary of this, other than to say that if you took Reboot and made it a little bit more polished.
And like gave him a virus. And watched everybody mutate.
It's a little bit better than Reboot, but not by much.
I'll disagree. I think it's a lot better than Reboot. Go back and watch Reboot. Not just Sean, like everybody. But Reboot was almost to the point of that, like, money for nothing video where people are kind of like gliding around and not moving. It looks like the floor beneath them is shuffling along with them. This was pretty fluid, and the mouth movements and stuff were fairly well timed. There weren't a whole lot of janky kind of wonky things going on. It wasn't great. It wasn't super fluid, but I didn't think it was that bad, honestly. I was mostly just watching Six's boobs go back and forth, so I don't know. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
We're talking about jank, and we've talked about jank for the last couple of weeks with some of the animation style. Like, this first episode opens up with Six with like her legs behind her head and her head like in her crotch doing like a yoga move.
Yeah.
And then she gets out of it like a bizarre robot contortionist, and you're just like, what? Was the joke supposed to be that she could like go down on herself? Or that I think
as an introduction, it's just kind of like, the hell's going on here? Like, what? Yeah. And then she is meant to just draw your eyes kind of wherever she goes, just because she's like Jessica Rabbit. She's just drawn that way. So you kind of follow her wherever you go, but there's so many kind of weird and strange creations going. There's like bird people. There's weird little like mushroom people. There's so many different things. It's actually a fairly creatively drawn and designed worlds populated by many different types of people and creatures.
Sure, and
the fact that they can like cram all them in is pretty good for their software.
Yeah. I mean, and we get into a lot of those crazy characters.
Yeah.
Especially on this first episode.
Both, I'd say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the first one you get a fair amount when we get to the like airport, for lack of a better word. The second one, when you get to that planet, there's a lot going on that planet.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot that's going on that planet, but I want to say like it felt. I don't know. It just felt like it was. It was
more humanoid on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was more humanoid, but it was also like very stereotypical and just.
Oh, 100%.
At some point, my brain just was like, I don't care that you don't understand what homosexuality is.
We'll get there.
It felt like this show was confused about itself and its sexuality in the middle of that one episode, and it was very hard to kind of get through it because it was. I looked at it this way. Yep. It was like a kid, like a 15-year-old boy trying to understand that there are people who are different than him. It was like that type of framing with like dick and fart jokes, and it's not funny to me.
We'll talk about that more because I think this setup is important, and I think what they're trying to do is an important thing to understand to have context for this world.
Sure. Okay.
I'll do my best to defend it, and we'll see if it if it passes muster or not. But
all right,
we'll see. Yeah. As far as the animation style for anything else, I mean, man, they really put a lot of time into the design of Six. They really like watching her walk around and do various whatever poses. They spent a lot of time on that. Everybody else is like, they're fine. Everybody moves around fine. Gus is a little wonky to look at and design. They do have fun stuff with like each of the characters though, right? So there's a bit when in the first episode when they're going to the airport and Gus is like, "Oh, thanks for getting me a ticket too." He's like, "I didn't get you a ticket." And he like starts to pull the robot apart and folds him up basically into luggage. So like it's stuff like that is kind of fun because it's not a static model all the time. They actually do kind of physically pull it apart and have some fun with it. Or they change clothes, which rarely happens on cartoons. So it was a little more advanced than I had actually anticipated for early 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Plus I looked up a lot of Trip in the Rift Rule 34 and I'm just like totally into it.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I did not look this up.
No, I didn't either. You don't need to. It's right there in front of your face.
It's uncomfortably there.
If you guys haven't figured out by now, the show is incredibly sexual. To the point that they like A, don't care, and B, make it a plot point. Or it's just constant. And sometimes it's like, all right, we get it. It's enough. If the topic of sexuality, especially homosexuality versus heterosexuality, is not contentious enough, what other topic that humans always fight over could possibly be more contentious than that?
I don't know. Could it be religion?
It might be religion. So we might as well start there.
Oh God.
I gotta give them points for having the balls to just like tackle this straight up. Now, granted, it's a animated, space-based, sci-fi, goofy series, but they're asking questions that most people are like, no, you can't say that. No, no, you're not allowed. And as Canadians, too, you guys are supposed to be polite and not throw this stuff in our faces.
I'm actually going to disagree with you. I don't feel like they tackled this at all. I feel like what they did was they created a very biased narrative at some point, and then in order to kind of keep it very PG or keep it accessible to everybody, they at the end they were just like, and we're redoing everything. Don't worry about it. We figured it out. And then it just drops. There's no ending. If you're looking for hey, maybe this show has some philosophy that's behind it, or maybe this show has a bigger idea or some type of a larger grand design that will kind of guide these alien creatures and these sex robots for 3 seasons. I can't believe this show went fucking 3 seasons. For 3 full seasons. No, you're not going to get anything. You're just going to get them taking real bad recycled pot shots at God and religion. And I say this as an agnostic. If you're going to write jokes like this that are going to be against God, that are going to be against a creator, man, you better make them funny. You better make those situations funny. And for me, it was just to probably curb a line that this show would have recycled and used. These jokes went over like a fart in church. And that feels like as relevant as I can make it in terms of religion in this show.
Here's where I'm going to jump in. So I think that a lot of that was intentional. I think this is their first thing out of the gates, other than the web shorts that were premiered a couple years earlier.
It's not. It was those web shorts. They did 3 or 4 web shorts before this, so they had time to build something.
I'm not here. Let me finish here. Okay. I'm not saying it's their first time out of the gate, so they don't know what they're doing. I'm saying it's their first time on the network TV, and this is basically their first big coming out for a bigger audience. The people who have watched the webcomics or whatever, they already know pretty much what they're going to get, or close to it. For the bigger audience who is seeing this thing, they have no clue what they're going to get. So I like the fact that they came out and were basically just first order of business, is there a God or not? That's pretty ballsy, regardless of how it is executed. Pretty ballsy question to come out and ask. Now, I will say this. Yes, they do not take a stand one way or the other. And I actually like that because it leaves that conversation open. Because it's honestly not a conversation that ever has an end, as far as we can tell. So it leaves the conversation open. And from talking to creators of similar webcomics like this, of shows, of comics that have kind of this satirical, edgy, sometimes aggressive attack of ideals, things that people hold dear on one side or another, most of them say you have to walk down the middle. You have to offend everybody equally. You can't lean too much to one side or the other because you'll alienate a larger part of the audience, and you'll also then attach a stigma to your show that says, oh, well, that one time they went 60% in favor of religion, so they're definitely always going to be in favor of religion. Whereas if you stay more or less within the 50% range, people don't know, and it encourages conversation, it encourages speculation, it encourages anger on both sides. So I think I'm not going to be too harsh with them. I think they did an okay job at staying in the middle of the road, though they definitely lean more towards making fun of religion than not.
Sure. And I won't disagree with you on those points. I think they are super, super valid. I think though the perspective and sort of the final conclusion that they were running towards with all of this wasn't to really toe the line, or it was to be as offensive as possible. That's Correct. Fine. Again, we keep saying this. If you're gonna do that, better be really funny.
Yeah.
Did not work for me.
Okay.
Which is fine. But then the second was to really just prove the character point that we have with Chode McBlob. With Chode I fucking hate saying
just call him Stephen Root, because I keep having to remind myself that's friggin' Stephen Root voiced this guy.
So Stephen Root, with all of this, it's just to prove the fact that his character is right about everything, and that he is the authority. He's the de facto authority. Even though he's not right about this stuff, he's still correct. And I think that sense, or that sort of confabulation in terms of somebody's ego and how they create that narrative, it seems unreliable, and it seems sort of, it seems crazy. It seems crazy to be able to start a show with a pilot with saying, I'm right, and then I'm wrong, but I'm still right. And that was more frustrating to me than probably anything else.
See, but I think the fact that they made you feel that way about Chode is probably what they were looking for. Because this is not a person who you should be looking to for advice for anything. He's kind of he's not even really an anti-hero, because these guys don't have anything except their own interests in mind.
Yeah.
You kind of, he's a rogue, he's a scoundrel, he's kind of scummy. They all kind of are. You're not really supposed to like any of these characters, but you watch them because, I mean, I guess if you watch the show religiously, no pun intended, you watch them because you wanted to see what kind of crazy shit they'd say next, and what kind of terrible situations they'd get themselves into, and what kind of terrible people or chode blobs they would be until the next time. So I don't think you're supposed to like him, and I don't think you're supposed to find him reliable. What's interesting is that he has a whole sequence where he literally just goes back and forth when his life is threatened. We haven't set this episode up. So essentially what happens is the crew finds out there's a sort of a time travel vacation thing that they can take. And they start to get into this debate amongst themselves where they say, let's go back to the beginning of time. And most of the crew are like, oh, well, God's going to be there, and that's going to be awesome. Let's go back and say hi to God. And of course, Chode is just like, no, idiot, there's no God there. It's the Big Bang. It was an explosion, the expansion, boom, that's it, done. Pretty much everybody else on the crew is like, no, there's a God. He's like, let's find this out. Go ahead.
Yeah, to which we have Six replying and saying, well, I've been in enough Big Bangs. And just one time when I'm screaming, oh God, I really want to mean it. And
she wants to go bang God at the beginning of time. It's the stuff like that was just more of an eye roll. It wasn't really funny. It's like, I get it. You're a sex robot.
Yeah.
Great. What was interesting was that Gus, the robot, was religious. Because he was saying basically like, well, God created everything. He's like, if there was no God, then I should just, I guess, bow down. What? I'm supposed to bow down to the engineers that make me? And then with Six also being a robot, a cyborg or a sex slave robot, she's like, there's no way that God is a nerdy, fat, pimply-faced dude that's chronically masturbates or whatever. Right. So they're like, I don't know. They're playing around a little bit with AI and what makes a God figure. They really didn't get into the fact that, like, you know, say we established a communication with intelligent life somewhere else in the world. If we're to believe here on Earth that, like, humans are made in God's image, but we meet aliens that look nothing like us, that look like something in Tripping the Rift, how do you take that, you know, how do you perform your missionary duties, go to them and say, like, hey, this is our God, check it out. We're made in his image. I don't 100% know what you guys are, but we'll figure that out down the road. Like, they didn't dig into that at all, which I thought was more interesting, but they at least plant some seeds and they open up the conversation a little bit more. I'll say this, way more than any other cartoon ever really does. I don't think I've ever watched a cartoon where the first episode or any episode was like, let's talk about whether or not God exists. Unless you're watching Preacher. That's a whole nother story.
Sure.
Humperdoo.
So again, as Dave has mentioned, everything's been set up and everything's been framed that they are going to go back in time to the beginning of time, right, so that they can say whether or not God is actually real. And so...
And it's mostly just Chode and Gus who go on this journey.
Right. And so they pack up, they head into this time travel...
it's like an airport.
Yeah, like spaceship that they get into. And they go into the past.
Oh, let me ask you real quick how you felt about the guy who tried to sneak a bomb in versus the women who were dressed as what are they called, the sort of ceremonial dress for Muslim women that covers everything but the eyes. Sorry, I don't know the term.
No, I thought it was a burqa. I don't believe that it is.
Okay. But essentially, there's this guy who tries to go through security, and in his briefcase is like 3 grenades, a gun, and a bomb. And the security guard holds it up, essentially think TSA, like post 9/11, right? He holds it up and he's like, sir, what is this? The guy's like, don't shake it, it'll explode. He's like, what is it? It's a can of soda. You can't bring a can of soda on this plane? And he's like, I mean, it's a bomb. Oh, a bomb's totally fine then. So he puts it back in his bag, gives it to the guy. The guy walks off camera and then detonates. You don't see it. All you see is like bloody chunks
and
blow
organs.
Back into, and organs, like and blood just everywhere. That It didn't really make me laugh, but it caught me off guard. I was like, okay, at least they followed through with that joke. But I guess.
I mean, I actually may have been right. It may have been. It may.
Is it a
So
burqa?
we have two penguins.
They were kind of bird people.
Yeah,
They were pushing like a bird child in a stroller. Yeah.
Two like female penguins that are wearing what looks like a burqa, and their beaks are coming out of where like you would actually have like the eyes.
Yeah.
And they get racially profiled.
The one bird says something like B6, and she's like, no, C4. And as soon as they say C4, they get like basically tackled and thrown into a holding cell. And they're like, it's a random screening.
And they're like, is it really that random? Because then the camera pans and you see that there is a bunch of other Muslim-looking aliens, and they play sitar music over top of it.
I was going to say, if you didn't know that they were supposed to be like Middle Eastern persuasion, they'd definitely play some stereotypical music. Stuff like that.
I'm not even Muslim, and I was like, this is really poorly done and offensive. Like, this is a shitty joke.
The thing is, it wasn't funny. But I also didn't find it offensive in the way that you probably should, because for satire and for parody and things like that, when you kind of spin that around and you point that lens on the people who put them in there, and you say these are the people who are wrong, and they are very obviously a parody of like the TSA at the time and currently. When you give them that point of view and you put the joke there, yeah, it's wrong, it's offensive, it's terrible. But it's because those people did that thing. It's not like the writers saying, hey, look at this funny thing that we do to people because we're terrible. You can look at it either way. I choose to look at it as parody and satire. I still didn't laugh, but I at least got what they were trying to do. Yeah.
Fair.
But okay, so as you were saying, they're on the plane, they're traveling through time, and they're in the past.
Right. So they get to this point where I will say there's actually some cool imagery, because the spaceship flies up into what's a huge mouth.
Yeah,
and the
purple mouth
inhales them and says, next stop, the beginning of time. And that was kind of interesting.
Trippy. Yeah, I like the kind of psychedelic aspects of it. That again felt very like Douglas Adams to me.
Yeah, this is very Douglas Adams. And so we had like a weird cutscene where there's like some dinosaurs, and then there's a canine Jesus, and then
that was weird.
Yeah, it was weird. And then, but I've never seen this before, so this is interesting imagery.
I was watching. I'm like, are they trying to say like it's an inversion of God? So it's just dog. Like dog is the.
I mean, there have been. I think there was a Kids in the Hall sketch, which again,
like
Canadian sketch comedy group. Who I think that they wrote some type of a sketch where somebody had submitted it was a dog contest. But they had submitted their god to it, and so that was the punchline.
It's also a Preacher punchline if you guys are catching up on that. Yeah.
Oh boy. So they go through all this interesting imagery. They get almost to the beginning of time.
Right.
It turns out that the pilot is just like, we're too scared and we want to live. We don't want to die. So they hightail it and they move it around. But in the meantime, I think that there is some lightning that's going to happen, which you're going to talk about, because this is a moment that you mentioned where it's convenient for him to call out to a higher power when necessary.
Yes. So Chode this whole time has been very adamant the fact that there is no God and it's just the Big Bang, and anyone who believes in God is a dummy and all this stuff. So they get to this point and the pilots basically say like, hey guys, we're doing great. We're almost there. All we got to do is get through these blue wavy lines that no one else has been able to cross, but it's going to be fine because we're powered by alcohol. So that kind of made me laugh. Drunk pilots are always funny until they're not. So they're going through this basically like electrical storm, and the plane is getting jostled and it's really kind of violent outside to the point that it looks like they're all going to die. So Chode starts to say, oh God, please don't kill me. I don't want to die here. I believe in you and I love you, and oh God. And the plane gets still. And Gus is like, oh, so you've come around now and you believe in a higher power. He's like, nah, only when my life's threatened. So the plane starts shaking again and all these lights start going. He's like, oh God, I'm sorry. I believe in you and everything I've ever said, and I'm sorry. This goes on and on and on for minutes. And it basically, he never really learns a lesson one way or the other. He basically sticks with his original assumption when everything's safe and fine. And then he freaks out and starts pretending to believe in God just to get him through a life-threatening situation when it's not so fine. Which, again, does not look good for his character, but also does not look good for people who are like that, one way or the other. People who either walk around every day acting holier than thou, but then in the dark do things that are as far from Christian as you can possibly get.
Sure.
I don't know who you might be thinking of, but I'm sure you can pick a few. Or people who are very adamant that there is no God, and anybody who thinks that is completely foolish and is being scammed. And then when their life's put on the line, they all of a sudden find Jesus and find religion or whatever.
Right.
So that's just part of the human condition, even if you're a little chode blob. So I was okay with it. Again, not funny. Just kind of like, okay, I see what you're trying to do. It's an interesting perspective. Didn't laugh.
Yeah. It's that weird self-preservation / bargaining
Yes.
that we fall into whenever
Your reptile brain.
when you feel threatened. But yeah, so they get to the point where they turn the plane around because the pilots don't want to die.
Right.
They get all the way back to the spaceport.
Right.
In the meantime, McBlob and Gus wait on the plane. They hijack and steal the plane, and they actually make it all the way through all the problem areas and this lightning and this turbulence where nobody's ever gone before, and they finally get to the Big Bang.
I mean, there's not much there, but what's missing?
God. There's no God there.
Well, I guess that solves it.
Yep.
End of the episode.
So they pack it up and they head back. Now we should mention at the very end of the first space flight, you see a flight attendant handing out these VA copies of the
complimentary
trip
copies of the trip. Yeah.
Right. So that they can watch the trip and they can observe. I guess it's maybe like a selfie cam.
I don't know what the hell that was. That was a weird. Yeah.
They can observe all of the interesting things that they saw, or maybe it was a cam that was on the nose of the plane, and so it recorded everything as well. Who knows?
We should also mention that when the guys were flying a plane, they saw a copy of themselves pass them off to the side, and they were just kind of like, "That's weird." And Gus is like, "You have no idea how time travel works, do you?" And he's like,
"Nope."
Nah.
So
that made me laugh.
So they get back all the way to this point, and they are leaving again this hijacked plane that they have. And again, they get a complimentary copy of the trip that they just took.
Right.
Pay if you're listening, just put
mental dog ear on that
put
one.
a little mental dog ear on that one, because that guy's important. So they get back into the spaceship, and what do they find, Dave? Things are different, right? Everything's the same. Everything's different.
Totally
everything's
normal.
Weird.
Everything's weird. So originally when they left, 6 was dressed in basically nothing. She got into fights with Tanuk all the time. What's his name? Whip was not even first mate. He was far down the line. Now everything's flipped. The girls are best friends. I think they're in a same-sex relationship at this point.
They are.
They're very conservatively dressed in weird sweaters. And one was an Omega. Was the other one an Alpha, or was it a T for some reason?
I thought it
can't
was.
remember.
Yeah.
One was an Omega. It doesn't matter. But it turns out that Whip is the captain of this ship. So Chode's not 100% sure what's going on with this. Gus, on the other hand, is soon met by his female companion, who now just wants to just bang Gus all the time. So this leads to the realization that sex is just free and you can just have sex whenever you want it and there are no repercussions. They basically soon find that money is just laying around and waiting for the taking. You just go and take as much as you want. Same with food. There are no wars because there is no religious divide. They say at one point, they're watching the news and they say, we now go live to the safest place in the world, Jerusalem. So pretty much anything that you could pick as a hotbed of conflict for whatever reason, usually religious, they show that it's been smoothed over and it's totally not a big deal. And everything seems like an ideal world at this point.
Right.
So what's the problem? What could possibly go wrong?
Well, I think you mentioned that they have all of these things that are grand, that are amazing, that are very important, and we wish that in a utopia society that we had these things.
Yeah.
But these exist because there's one underlying ideal that is missing.
What's that?
Which is that you can lie and cheat.
How about that?
Yes. And so in this moment, McBlob has, at some point, he has gone into a bank and they're not locking money up. You can just walk in and you can just take it. You can just take everything that you want and do it. And then people are just like, were we not supposed to tell anybody that you could just lie and you can cheat? And then that quickly escalates into every other form of depravity that you could think. To the point
every
where
sin, every vice,
which we've mentioned that that our buddy Gus, he kind of has like a lady robot that's in his life, and at some point when they come back from the Big Bang, she is like his wife. Like, she is a very excited wife. She's very happy to see him and wants to welcome him back with loving arms. Now, in this depraved, crazy world that they've created because these good people didn't realize that bad and evil could exist in any way, she suddenly pops up in the elevator and just looks at Gus and she goes, "I learned a new word today. It's sodomy." And you're like, what the fuck?
And at the same time, Six has just walked in. She's like, "I found something else that's more fun than sex." And she just holds up the severed head of Tanuk. You're like, okay. The one that's probably the worst is that they cut to a news reporter.
This was so fucked up.
This was pretty fucked up.
This was really fucked up.
So I don't know. Trigger warning, I guess.
Yes.
Just in general, trigger warning. So they're showing on the news people looting, robbing, murdering, assaulting other people, and most people don't understand what's going on. Even the anchor is like, "Breaking news, evil." Oh, I'm sorry. I'm told that's pronounced evil. Evil is breaking out. So they go to this other reporter, and he's like, "I think I've discovered a new form of evil." Now, as you're looking at this guy, you only kind of see like 3/4 of him. You see his head, but he's kind of bent over something, and his whole body is just kind of like shuddering back and forth, just kind of like, what's the word? Pulsing almost.
Yeah, pulsing.
I'm gonna try not to get too descriptive with it, because
Yeah.
you can tell what's happening. It's off camera, but you can tell what's happening. And then he basically says, he's like, "I'm currently being raped in my," and then they blank out the word ass. Like, "I'm currently being raped." And they just stay there for about, I don't know, an uncomfortable amount of time.
It is so uncomfortable, and it's unnecessary too.
Yeah. That was something.
It's really like to me, the idea that somebody, would sit around in a writer's room and just be like, "Man, this is what is gonna cap off." Like, it's, we like the way that they escalated and heightened everything within this is they were like stealing or lying, stealing, murder, sodomy, rape. It just like it's a series of just you could have done 3 and you could have been out of it, but they were just like, "We're gonna push the envelope. We as writers of Trip and the Rift are gonna push the envelope in this, and we're gonna push it all the way into this alien's butt." And It's like, it's not funny. It's just not. It's not. It not only is it not funny, but it's a shitty joke, and it was offensive to watch.
Look, I give a lot of artistic license for things like this, as far as trying to make the point. Probably should have been on cutting room floor. That one probably should have been left out.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm like personally offended by it. It's not funny, and you've already kind of made the point. So like, did you really need to do an alien butt rape joke? Is that really what you need to do?
No, the answer is no. The answer is 100%. They did not have to make this joke.
All right. So we're in this utopian world ruined by basically Chody McBlob, because he introduced vice and sin to the world. So then they're like, well, we should probably go to the tape and figure out what the hell happened. Turns out they ran into God with their plane and killed him. So the only way to fix that is to go back in time.
To which, again, they see themselves, again, traveling back in time at the same time, to which we have almost an identical conversation of,
Right.
That's weird. You don't know the first thing about space travel, do you?
Right.
Nope. So
then they essentially just go back and they like have a conversation with God. And what does he say at this point? He's like, "Thank you for saving my life, and in return I will raise a statue of you, and you will be my only begotten sons." And everything.
Yeah.
That sounds nice. Sounds
sure.
Totally fine. So it all works out well for the guys.
Well, until you realize that this is the first group to go back in time. And I guess the way that they've planned this time travel, that there is a second group that has yet to actually make it back. And so at this point, God knows that the plane is coming. He jumps over the plane, and the plane touches down, and where it would have crushed and killed God, instead it like decapitates, it kills and murders McBlob and Gus.
Yep. And you just see blood leaking out of Chode and like oil leaking out of Gus.
And this whole episode ends with God just looking at the camera and just going, suckers. And that's it. And
that's it. Cut.
Hard blackout.
Roll
That's
credits.
Done.
And at that point, I'm kind of like, yeah, they were not super reverent towards any religion at all. That was never their intention. They weren't super, I'd say they weren't super hard on people who were like, we don't need God, we don't need religion, because the whole like instant descent into madness and chaos kind of shows that we need some sort of like moral guidance from somewhere, even if it's just a collective communal belief, even if it's not anything that has like any physical truth to it. If it has a communal belief that keeps people in line and keeps them from doing these horrible things, it's probably important.
Guys, we need those social constructs. Those are incredibly important.
Yeah, to not just moida everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to need that a lot in the next few years, I think. So let's hold on to that. Let's not hold on to tripping the rift. Oh. Do you want to talk about the second episode?
I want to talk about how offensive it is.
Okay, now again, you think this one's super offensive. By the time I got to the end of this first one, I'm agreeing with you. There are lines that didn't need to be crossed. There were, boundaries that didn't need to be pushed for a laugh that was not there.
Okay.
So let's talk about the second one.
So the second one, it starts out and the setting is that they're stuck in traffic. There is a Vulcan who's drunk and pees on a cop's foot, and as a result, evidently there's cargo in that ship that has now dispersed around the areas of traffic to which they have tractor beamed that cargo. They've stolen it, brought it on board, and guess what? It turns out it's essentially sex lubricant. Yeah,
it's like KY jelly, but they couldn't use that brand.
But yeah, so it's like GY is what they call it. So
it's GY jelly because it's only for dudes.
Yeah, so GY jelly is evidently only for homosexuals. Only. Exclusively lube for homo. No hetero or heteronormative person can possibly use this. Nope. This is explicitly only designated lube for people who are gay.
Yep, that's it. 2 dudes, 1 lube. That's it.
This episode. Go ahead. I got so much shit about this.
I was just gonna say this is where we learn that Gus knows a lot more about quote unquote homosexuality than he had let on before. Because somebody was like, "Well, how do you even use this stuff?" And he's like, "It's simple. You simply squirt a quarter-sized dollop on your hand, and then you didn't mean that. I'm sorry."
Yeah. There's a part
and he's like, one tube will last you exactly 4 hours and 37 minutes. After that, you are down to spit and prayers. That was
a funny line.
Spit and prayers.
I did enjoy that.
But
because what is it? They make some comment afterwards. They're just like, "Are you sure that you're not letting on?" Or they make some comment about it, and Gus's response is like, "I will slap you all the way to Liza Minnelli's grave."
Yeah, and stuff like that. I was just like, "Fuck, all right, like we get it. We're making gay jokes. We get it. It's fine. You don't have to."
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we making gay jokes?
Oh, all the gay jokes.
Because this is middle school locker room gay joke central for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Is all that this episode is people not understanding that there are gay people that exist and that in the presence of gay people, you need to show and stress masculinity and you need to hump a sex robot while you're trying to sell illegal goods to a gay mayor because he will only do business with people who are gay, and they are on a planet where heterosexuality has been outlawed.
Okay, so we threw a lot at you there. So let's back up a little bit. Our crew has all this gay-only sex jelly. Hold that thought in your head. They are like, well, we can only sell it to gays. Where's a crap ton of gays that we can go? And they're like, I heard about this all-gay planet called Fabulous Heaven. I love that name. If there was an all-gay planet,
it's a funny name.
And it should absolutely be called Fabulous Heaven. That was amazing. When they get to this place, it's got like rainbow-colored rings in its orbit, which I also thought was fantastic. Up to that point, I'm like, I'm on board. This is fun. Except for the weird jelly stuff where they can only sell it exclusively to gays, whatever. And then they land. Now, look, if they would have had a line that said like it's Mardi Gras or it's a celebration or it's Pride Day or something to explain why literally every person was dressed either as like a bear as a twink, I guess that's still an acceptable term, or as just like an overly hyper-sexualized stereotype of a gay person, of a lesbian. There were no like quote-unquote normally dressed people walking around. Everybody was in like midriffs and cutoff shorts and rainbow sparklers or just like no one dresses like that. I guess if you're going to this planet to have like a again quote unquote, this would be so much easier with a video podcast, like a gay vacation where you can just like have Pride Week all the time or like dress up however you want. Fine, but if we're supposed to believe that this is just how like life is on this planet all the time, then it's very obviously playing into the stereotypes from the writers, whether they intended to or not.
Right. I really would have loved to have known if there was actually any gay writer that was in the room when they put this together.
I can't believe that there was.
Or
if there was, he's probably just like ostracized and just like, yeah, you do this shit, right? You do all this gay shit. It's fine if we put it in here. I don't know, though. Canadians are very polite. I will say, though, that all the political stuff that we get into, because we see a gay governor. What's his name? McJersey?
Yeah, Governor McJersey.
Governor McJersey, who will only deal with gay-owned businesses, which will set up a plot point we'll talk about in a second. There's also a Reverend Fletcher who goes on TV and decries heterosexuality as unnatural, sinful, disgusting, and to be outlawed, punishable by death. Now, this kind of stuff I'm okay with. Why? Because the norm in our society is that the heterosexual people who are in power, the politicians, the law enforcement, the
religious
clergy,
leaders.
Religious leaders who are very, we've seen it just in the last couple of weeks, who are devoutly like heterosexuality and that's it. That's how God ordained it. That's it. There's no other way. Any other way is sinful. Then they legislate and they use their power to say like anything other than this is wrong and it will be discouraged and it will be punished. So I'm okay with this show taking that stance from the other side because they're basically saying like, this is how ridiculous this outlook is. We're just looking at it from the other side. They're not saying that like the two sides are equivalent as they are currently in sort of animosity towards each other. They're just saying if you fit in one particular social caste or cultural caste or sexual caste and you make cast aspersions on other people for doing things that aren't like you, then you're just as ridiculous as everybody else. Man, I'm starting to sound like a Nazi or something though.
Oof.
You know? Not trying to go there. I see what they're trying to do. Just the execution wasn't great.
They're attempting to show the juxtaposition of societal norms to sum everything up.
That was good. Thanks for. Why didn't you say that like 10 minutes ago? I was
because
just rambling and sweating my brains
out.
out.
To be honest with you, watching those gears turn, that was everything for me.
Sean just summed that up in like 3 words.
Right.
Now, granted, they're all much bigger words that I usually use, but it worked.
No, they're not. You're very intelligent, Dave. So
juxtaposition. That's like 5 words right there.
Yeah, it's not. It's okay. We will talk later.
Okay.
So they juxtapose these social norms in a way, that it subverts society that we currently have that's in place.
And I like that real quick. I just like that because it changes your perception for a second. Because it's something you haven't really seen. You may have thought of it. You may have even talked about it. But to see it kind of changes your gears a little bit.
And I will agree with you on that. And I think that I wish that they had made a bigger or a better point about this.
Yes.
Because they had every opportunity to just say, you know what? Like, love is love, and however you want to do something is totally fine. And these things should be acceptable, and that, you know what? Even if we're on this planet where it is predominantly gay, we can embrace other people who might not have those same beliefs or sexual desires.
And that's their main misstep, is that it doesn't have anything to do with love in this sense. Like everything else on this show, it has to do with sex, and that's it.
And that's the problem that I have with this that no point is it just like, you know what? It's about activism. It's about equality in terms of rights. It's about, understanding nature, nurture, environment. All of these things that go into creating us who we are,
right.
And society, and being able to make and have commentary on it. And this show had the setup, and its execution was, these gays are weird, huh? Gays. I don't understand it, gays. And that's it. That's their commentary on gays is, look how weird these gays are. Look how macho I can be. And it fucking blew my mind.
And essentially, we keep saying execution, talking about how well the show performed, what the writers had in mind, but there is a literal execution that takes place at the end of this episode, or at least they try to. So the governor, who turns out is closeted heterosexual, because he really just wants to bang 6, and they do, for quite a long time. A lot of things kind of happen in between, but the main thing is at the end, they basically like out the mayor as straight in front of his entire contingency and all his supporters as he's like running for re-election, just to escape the guillotine. Just to escape from getting their heads cut off. Yeah.
And just to be clear, because again, this could have been something where, you know what, he came out again, juxtaposition. We have this thing where he comes out and it turns out he is not, like, he's hetero. And
he's at least hetero curious.
Sure.
At that point.
He's hetero curious at that point. And so this is something where, you know, he could say like, hey, this is an opportunity to learn and to have possibly these curiosities, these other desires. It's not just all about sex. There might be something bigger. There might be something additional that's above and beyond what this show's message is. And then what happens to Governor McJersey, Dave? This is to me, this is the polish. Like, this is the spit shine and a prayer that's on this turd of a sandwich. What happens to Governor McJersey? Yeah,
there's a few things here that kind of get worse one after the other. Well, first they show that he's straight by throwing a bunch of porn at him, basically. And then he's more or less stoned to death by the congregation of people who have gathered around him.
Yeah.
So he's essentially stoned to death. However, that's not bad enough. They had to make jokes about. Mm-hmm. They had to make jokes about effeminate men. Now, effeminate
not being able to throw stones.
Yeah. So just because you're a gay male does not mean you are unable to throw a thing hard. I don't know why that seems to be I don't know. Is that a belief? Do people believe that? I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it goes back to like the whole.
I can't throw particularly hard.
I mean, it goes back to the whole idea that, like, you know, they're sissies, they're wimps.
Right.
You know, they're not as strong as their hetero male counterpart, and it's
it's not even within the rules that they set up within this show. They show a bunch of dudes like walking around like huge muscly dudes in like the bear or like even like the gimp suits or whatever. So that doesn't even make sense. They just wrote it in as like a quick joke because then they say, but then the women's softball team showed up and finished the job.
Yep.
Fucked up. So it's pretty fucked up. They stoned a dude to death because he came out as straight. I get it. This has happened before to homosexual people. It will probably happen again, unfortunately. I get it. Trip in the rift. The thing is, to just shove our collective wrongs in your face, I don't think it does as much as saying, here's all the wrongs, but because this is a fictional world where things can be better, here's a thing that could go right at the end. Even if it's because of all these idiots who screwed up along the way and it just happened to work out this way through no fault or benefit from them. Like you said, they could have actually spun it around and done something nice with it. But nope, that's not the kind of show this is. So if you're looking for like a nice ending or anything not offensive or controversial, it's not going to be here. I did like the guillotine though.
That was, I mean, it's a funny,
was stupid.
It's a funny pun and play on word.
Yeah, because it means nothing. It's just kind of like everything in this planet has to be gay. So even the guillotine or the guillotine has to be gay. Anything else from this one?
No, that's it.
All right. Hey, what's the time for?
We sometimes have our own opinions about these shows. Hey, guess what, Internet? You also have some very, very distinct opinions. And so tonight, we're now going to hand the show over to longtime listener and friend of the show, Bobby Anthem, for this week's Love It or Hate It. So, Bobby, take it away.
Filthy. I love it. 8 out of 10 stars. Written by Paul Clough, Bjorks Yorga, from Davenport, Iowa. May 29th, 2006. I can't believe how nasty this show is. I must admit that I have only seen the DVDs, which I believe are unrated, but the filth and the non-stop innuendos are enough to make a seasoned South Park fan blush. This is a must-see for any fan of the adult humor cartoons, such as South Park, Oblongs, Drawn Together, and anything on Adult Swim. The characters are all very easily defined, but also hilarious. Tanook, the big fat bitch, is always on the lookout for love. The captain wants sex and money. Six simply wants to be respected and not used for sex, although she basically does nothing but, and her gigantic breasts are always on display. And Gus wants people to think he's straight, as well as get some attention. Definitely a show you are going to want to watch. It doesn't understand humor. 1 out of 10 stars. Author Roman Jones from the Czech Republic, July 22nd, 2016. Humor is a difficult thing to master. You can have a joke and tell it in such a way that it either makes the listener pee their pants with laughter, wince in discomfort, or sigh in apathy. All the same joke, just different ways of telling it. Something very simple can ruin a joke. Poor timing, not knowing that the word porn is not a punchline to everything and shouldn't be treated as such. That falling off a small ledge isn't funny without proper setup. That simply announcing you're gay isn't funny without some kind of context, and so forth. Some people don't understand that there is an entire art to comedy. Louis C.K. can tell a story about getting a hand job, and it's hilarious. Dane Cook did the same thing, and it's lame. Andy Kaufman ate a bowl of ice cream, and it was brilliant. Tom Green ate a bowl of cereal, and no one cared. Tripping the Rift wants to do shock comedy, but it doesn't understand the first thing about comedy. It's the Dane Cook and Tom Green of CG animated shows.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Bobby. We hope you guys out there in listener land enjoyed that. Now it's back to us regular chuckleheads. Sean, buddy, Tripping the Rift. Do you recommend it? If not, does it get the dip? Which means that it's erased from existence for all time.
I'm so ready to jump on this.
Throw that in. You are super ready.
I know. I do not recommend this show, and I am dipping it.
Holy shit. That was a fast dip.
Yeah. I feel that this show did nothing to ingratiate me in terms of its sense of humor. I feel that it played off of really cheap stereotypes, recycled jokes, and there was so much that was in it that had the opportunity to have. It's already making commentary, in 2014 about how we understand and talk about God, how we understand and how we talk about stuff regarding homosexuality. And it at no point talked anything about any type of tolerance, about any type of understanding. I mean, as we've mentioned, these episodes, one ended with God saying "sucka" as he killed the two main characters, and the other one ends with what has Whip with an ice pack on his crotch to show that he's been masturbating too much in their absence. And it ends with a gay person being stoned to death. And so...
Well, technically a straight person, but...
Well, okay. As you mentioned, straight curious.
Yeah.
And so we have somebody being stoned to death in this show. And again, I hate to say it, but if you're going to write jokes like this and you're going to do something, you better be fucking funny. And this show... other than the guillotine and maybe like one other, and some of the imagery that we had when we traveled in the space-time with the mouth, there wasn't very much for me to identify or be interested in, other than the fact that this show was trying to be... If this show had been cheeky and a little bit pervy, I would have gotten it, but it was so overt that at the end of it, I didn't care about the sexuality of any of these characters. I did not give a single fuck.
I think we're split on this one. So this is going to be a split dip. I'm not going to dip it, and I'm going to actually recommend it for a strange reason.
Sure.
Not because it's particularly funny, not because it's particularly like sexy or entertaining in that way. The fact that we've had such like a rowdy conversation is rare on this show. 170 some odd episodes in. It's rare that we actually get to talk about something of like substance other than just like, wow, that animation was terrible, or that guy's knees bend backwards, or something weird. It's rare that we actually talk about that. So I actually applaud, that might be the wrong word, this show for at least just going for it and being controversial and offensive. I think that there's a place in art for things like that. And most of the time people don't like them, and I think that's by design. It's fascinating to me that enough people, quote unquote, liked this to keep it around for 3 seasons. I can understand why maybe the Sci-Fi Channel was like, I don't think that this is for us, so Canada, you can hold on to this one for a while.
Yeah.
But as far as like being bold enough and brave enough and just sometimes ignorant enough to approach some of these topics and do it in the way that they did it, I don't think it was necessarily admirable, but I think it's an important thing to watch if it'll raise questions in either your own outlook on the world. If you find yourself just like laughing at everything that happens in this show and not questioning anything, that's probably a red flag. Maybe you should talk with friends or whatever, or like get together and watch this, or listen to this show and be like, here's things that are wrong and things that should not actually be funny. It's interesting. I don't know if this show is sophisticated enough to kind of achieve this, but there are sometimes, look at Rick and Morty, look at BoJack Horseman, who are pitched as, animated comedy series. However, not everything, honestly, not most things that happen in that show are meant for laughs. They're meant to kind of like get you to reflect back on yourself, to look at these characters and to be like, the fuck is wrong with these people? Like something is seriously screwed up here. We need to like stop and talk about this for a second. I don't know if Tripping the Rift is at that same level of sophistication yet, or when it was on the air, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt that maybe that's what they were trying to do. So if this sparks conversations or gets you to think in a different way, then I think it's worth it. So it's a tinted recommendation.
Oh, fair enough.
From Professor Dave.
Oh, but I really do feel like for this discussion, we probably could have written a dissertation.
Yeah. I have a monocle on. I'm just going to say the word juxtaposition. Did I say it right?
You said just a position.
Juxtaposition.
Not juxtaposition.
Oh, damn it. Damn, that's so close.
Oh, man.
That PhD remains ever elusive. All right,
just right out of grasp.
Juxtaposition. Man, we are 3/4 of the way through Canada month. It's been a rough ride.
Oh, boy.
We got one more. We'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, what are you up to out there, and what can you let the listeners know about?
Hey guys, as always, I do live improv comedy in Washington, D.C. with a group that is called Nox. That's NOX exclamation point. We perform for Washington Improv Theater. You can find out tickets and times with dc.org. And I'm always on the chirps and the grams at Sean Paul Ellis. Dave's shaking his head real hard because I'm saying chirps
and grams
instead of the grams, instead of the honey grams.
Oh,
those golden grams.
Ooh, Teddy Grams.
Teddy Grams would be. I want them now. Damn it.
What were the cinnamon ones? Cinnamon Teddy Grams?
Yeah, they're just cinnamon grams. Yeah.
Chocolate one's not great.
I also didn't mind just like the regular honey ones. Those guys were
honey
still
ones
good.
were good. Yeah.
Do you remember the fact that they had their hands down and then their hands up, like it was like weird
They
YMCA?
did.
They did. They were always really good. We have been talking so much on this show about food lately.
We talk a lot about food, and now I'm thinking about Dunkaroos. So if you guys
God!
if you guys out there prefer Dunkaroos or Teddy Grams, you let us know. But in the meantime, you can find me on Twitter at DrClawMD. You can also check out my handiwork on Collider.com, Nerdist.com, and DaveTrumbore.com. For more on this particular show right here, we would love it if you'd head to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Cartoons. Remember, that's morning with a U. Facebook listeners, morning with a U. You listen up. Anyway, check out our Patreon page. You can also head on over to our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Check us out on Twitter at MorningTunes. Take a look at Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page. Keep that conversation going on Facebook, even if it's to tell us about presumed spelling errors. And listen to our free audio podcast each and every week through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. As always, feel free to reach out to us, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. That's going to do it for this week, but we've got one more Canadian cartoon coming up. It's going to be great. I hope. I really need a win here.
I do too.
Help me,
like
Canada.
This has been like a Transformers month for me. This is tough.
I always do it to you, so I always feel guilty at the end. I need a northern prayer here. Let's bring it on home, Mounties. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Mounties.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.